Today I'm ranking every Spider-Man movie from worst to best. From Peter Parker to Miles Morales to Peter Parker to Peter Parker. I'm gonna be choosing which of these Spider-Folk has the best movies. And honestly, I'm scared to even make this video because I know if you're even 1% a fan of Spider-Man, my top 3 placements is probably gonna make you mad. Let's get into it. I took a shower. So coming in at number 10, we have Spider-Man 3. And while this movie is a fun movie to watch, that's about all I can say good about it. It's got a lot of villains, it doesn't juggle them well. Sandman, I hate the Uncle Ben retcon that Sandman killed Uncle Ben. It feels really random and forced. Harry, or the Green Goblin, is kind of a joke in this movie. Anytime you're using amnesia as a plot device, probably not the best movie. Eddie Brock as Venom is crammed in and corny. Literally, this dude goes to church and prays for God to kill Peter over photography.
I want you to kill Peter Parker.
He literally preys on his downfall. But the worst part of this movie is Peter Parker. He is the worst Peter Parker has ever been in any movie. One, he cheats on Mary Jane after she said she was willing to die to be his girlfriend. She's like, yeah, I'm willing to die to be your girlfriend. I'm taking that risk. And then right in the next movie, he cheats on her. He kisses Gwen. And this is before he gets the symbiote. Don't even get me started on when he gets the symbiote. I feel like when he gets the symbiote, he should be more like, you know, going too hard on his villains, you know, not pulling his punches. Not just like dancing in the street and hitting his own girlfriend, hitting Mary Jane. I just can't root for this guy in this movie. It's not good. So coming in at number 9, we have The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I feel like this is the most popular last place choice, and I understand why. Making Peter's parents an important part to the story, like Peter is the chosen one, like he's the only one who could be Spider-Man, is so stupid. That ruins the whole point of watching Spider-Man. You want to feel like you could be Spider-Man, not that Peter Parker is the only one who could be Spider-Man. That's dumb. Jamie Foxx's Electro is so goofy and so bad, it's laughable. And then Harry Osborn is just kind of placed in this story as Peter's best friend, and he really looks like a Green Goblin with rabies in this movie. Don't really like him. There's a lot not to like, but what there is to like is the romance between Gwen and Peter Parker. This is probably the best romance of any Spider-Man movie. And then that last scene where Gwen dies is one of the best scenes in any Spider-Man movie. So, I mean, this movie is really just horrible with those 2 really good aspects stuck into it. I was gonna put it under Spider-Man 3. I really thought I was gonna put it under, but looking back, at least it does have that one scene and that one relationship that I really like. Coming in at number 8, we have Far From Home. From this point forward, I think all the Spider-Man movies are like pretty good. I love the suits in this movie. This movie has a lot of suits and I love all of them. Iron Spider, Night Monkey, and the black and red suit. I love all of those suits. I love Mysterio as a villain. Jake Gyllenhaal did super good. And obviously the illusion scene is super cool. And I love the cliffhanger at the end. I think it's a great cliffhanger. I will say this movie has a little too much Iron Man tribute stuff going on. I think they kind of are really trying to show appreciation for Iron Man in this movie. Maybe a little too much, maybe takes away from Peter's shine a little bit. It's not that big of an issue though. And I don't really like the action that much in this movie. While all the swinging and stuff is cool, the fights with Peter are mostly against drones and these fake monster people, which I'm not really a fan of. I'd rather see Peter fighting villains and people. I think that's a lot cooler. But the worst thing about this movie to me, it doesn't really affect the plot of the movie at all, but is that final post-credit scene where they just shove in that Nick Fury was a Skrull the entire time. I don't know why, but that just felt like getting spit in the face. I don't know even, I guess that's for this Secret Invasion series coming up. I don't care about that. That kind of just felt like getting spit in the face a little bit. I really hated that post-credit scene. Coming in at number 7, we have The Amazing Spider-Man. So the bad parts of this movie is the high school coming of age stuff is a little dated, corny, and cliche. Like the skater boy versus the bully. It's a little outdated at this point. I don't really know if it was outdated at that point, but it's definitely, you know, a little corny looking back at it. Also, Also, the whole Peter being a cool skater boy instead of a weird nerd is kind of a whiff. I don't think it ruins the movie, but it is a little bit of a whiff. Makes him a little less relatable. But I really do like this movie a lot. Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield are amazing actors, and they did really well in this movie. It's the same origin story, but I still really enjoy it in this movie. I don't know why. I guess it's just a good origin story, and they do it well with the first Spider-Man and in this one. So I enjoyed seeing it again. And I love the lizard. I think the lizard's a really cool villain. So I love the villain in this movie. I thought he had some real motivations, and he felt, you know, not just weird, creepy, evil, you know. It was a good villain. It was a good Spider-Man villain. And I also like the suit. I know a lot of people don't like the suit. I like the suit in this movie. I like it more than the suit from Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think that's very unpopular, but I like the suit. Coming in at number 6, we have Across the Spider-Verse. I can feel the snipers pointed at me. This is why I was even scared to make this video, but I gotta get it off my chest. But I really like this movie. Obviously, the art is amazing. Miles and Gwen are such likable characters in this movie. You really connect with them, and the relationships that they have with their parents in this movie feels very real, very relatable, and I think they executed their characters super well. The comedy is great. There's nothing really corny about this movie. The cameos are all great. Some of the best cameos you're gonna see in any movie. Spider-Man 2099 is super cool. I really like him. And overall, I really like the vibe and the feel of this movie. I liked it a lot. But I only have 2 issues with it, and I really like this movie. I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble because a lot of people are saying it's the best Spider-Man movie, but I like it a lot. I just have 2 issues. So the first issue is kind of a nitpick, but sometimes I feel like they kind of force the songs from the Metro Boomin soundtrack. I feel like some parts of the movie, they're a little forced in there. Like probably Gwen's origin story. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it's pretty sad, and they're just playing like a chill rap song called Self Love with Coi Leray. It does not fit at all, and it was actually like making me mad in the theater. But that's a nitpick. I think, you know, you could get past that. The real issue with this movie, and I wouldn't even say it's much of an issue, but when ranking it against other Spider-Man movies on its own, is the fact that this is really, really a part 1. Like, it's not like a movie with a cliffhanger at the end where you're like, oh, we gotta go see the next one. It's like really just kind of, it reminded me of watching a TV show and the episode ending. It didn't really feel like a movie and there's definitely gonna be a follow-up to this. It really felt like just half of the story, which, you know, it was originally called part 1, so I guess that's fair, and I need to see the full thing because what I saw so far I like. But there wasn't really a big boss fight, a final, you know, conclusive act. And then honestly, like, I felt like what could have been that final fight or final climax, you know, after that there's about like 15 minutes of extra stuff, and it really builds up like, oh, this is the final fight of the movie, but then it just ends. So I really think this is just such a part 1. Everything I saw I enjoyed, but as a standalone movie, I think, you know, we haven't got to see the end of how it ends yet. You know, I think with like Infinity War, you kind of see how it ends. And then there's a big gap. But with this movie, it's really just like cut in the middle. So I'm ready to see how it ends. I really like it. And I think Beyond the Spider-Verse definitely has the potential to be the best Spider-Man movie. Coming in at number 5, we have Spider-Man 1. The only bad thing I can say about this movie is that some of the directing and stuff is a little goofy. There's a little bit of goofy stuff. If you go rewatch this movie, you'll kind of laugh at some of the shots. But that's really just the only thing wrong with this movie. It's a great origin story. It's super Spider-Man-y. I don't know if that's a word, but it's a very Spider-Man-esque movie. Willem Dafoe is a great villain in this movie, and it's just really an enjoyable experience, an enjoyable origin story, and I really like it a lot. Coming in at number 4, we have Homecoming. I have nothing bad to say about this movie. Some people say Iron Man is overbearing in this movie. I don't really think so. I think they played Iron Man in this movie perfectly. I think he's a little too much in Far From Home, but in this movie, I think he works well. This movie probably has my favorite Spider-Man suit. I mean, when they came out with it and the eyes were moving, that was a really big deal to me. So I've always loved the Homecoming suit. I love the fairy scene. I love looking at Aunt May. The part where Iron Man tells Peter, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it, is so good. I feel like I quote that line a lot. Because like Peter, this entire movie has kind of based his whole worth around this suit. And when it's taken away from him and there's problems and nobody's listening to him, time, he kind of has to do it without the suit, which he thinks the suit is his power, but the power is within him, and he has to learn that. And the part where he lifts the building is super cool, and him saving Vulture is also super cool. It's a perfect Spider-Man movie. I love it a lot. It's just really fun. Nothing groundbreaking, but I love it. Number 3, we have Spider-Man 2. Now, this movie is a perfect Spider-Man movie. The themes are great. There is one little issue I'll get into the end, but it's not that big of an issue. So this entire movie is great. Doc Ock is an amazing villain. In this movie, Peter learns what it means to be Spider-Man, which I think is a really good sequel theme, because like he doesn't want to be Spider-Man. He wants to live his life because he's missing out on life by being Spider-Man. And for a point in the movie, he actually gives up being Spider-Man, but then the crime goes up, so he has to go back and he has to sacrifice his relationship with Mary Jane, his career, his social life. He has to sacrifice all that because he has that power, and with great power comes great responsibility. So he really has to bear that, and I think that's a very good character arc for this movie. The one thing I don't like is, like, literally that's all an amazing story, great character arc. I don't like how in the end him and Mary Jane get together. Feels like it kind of just defeats the purpose of the whole arc of like, I have to sacrifice everything to be Spider-Man, and then he's like, oh well, I'll just get with Mary Jane. I don't really like that, but if you just ignore that, the rest of the movie is perfect and super lovable and super fun. Coming in at number 2, we have Into the Spider-Verse. Now this was almost one for me. It was a hard choice, but I love this movie. I think it's probably the best origin story of any superhero movie ever. The best superhero origin movie ever. Number 1, the art is amazing and groundbreaking. The people doing it kind of realized like, hey, we're animating this, so we don't have to make everything look like real life. We can kind of lean into the fact that it's not real and do something new and artistic. And so that was groundbreaking. I really never saw anything like that before, and you're seeing it kind of make waves now. And also, another thing that's groundbreaking about this movie, I feel like nobody did like a multiverse blockbuster before this. I feel like there was no big multiverse movies. And then after this movie, it's like every blockbuster is a multiverse movie. Like, it's getting kind of annoying at this point. But they really were the first to do it that I can remember. And if I can't remember before that, probably not that important. So they really kind of set that standard for the whole multiverse thing on the big screen. But even if you take all that away, take away the fact that they were the first to do the multiverse on a big scale, take away the fact that the art is groundbreaking, amazing, new, the movie itself is great. The pacing is great. All the characters are great. Miles' origin story is awesome. I love the fact that it's kind of implied that he's not really supposed to be Spider-Man, but he still becomes Spider-Man because anybody can be Spider-Man, you know? I love that theme rather than the Amazing Spider-Man 2 where it's kind of like, your DNA is the perfect match to be I don't like that. I like the fact that, you know, anyone can be Spider-Man. So I really love how this movie leans into that, and I love the build up to the whole leap of faith scene. It's really amazing, done super well. Coming in at number 1, we have No Way Home. This is my clear number 1. I mean, I really like Into the Spider-Verse, but this for me, this is my number 1. Let me explain why. It's not even because of the Spider-Man cameos from the other Spider-Men. I mean, I like that. But when I think back about this movie, that's not what I really like about it. If Into the Spider-Verse is the perfect Spider-Man origin story movie, this is the perfect learning the weight of becoming Spider-Man movie. This movie did what Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2 couldn't do, and juggled a lot of villains, actually more than any of those, and did it well. And it also did what Spider-Man 2 did, the whole theme of learning the weight of becoming Spider-Man, but it didn't kind of just throw it all away at the end and give him a happy ending, you know? Peter doesn't get the girl. Aunt May dies. Everyone forgets who he is. He's completely alone at the end of this movie, and that's his choice. That's what he has to do because he's Spider-Man, and he has to accept the sacrifices. And the end of this movie ends with him being in a broke apartment, alone, no friends, nobody knows him. And that's because he's Spider-Man, and he really feels the weight of that. And I like that ending a lot more than Spider-Man getting with Mary Jane after learning all that. I think watching No Way Home, watching the Homecoming MCU Spider-Man trilogy, you kind of assume that Spider-Man's origin story happened off screen before it all, and they just didn't want to do it a third time. But watching this movie, when Aunt May dies and she drops the whole "with great power comes great responsibility" line, you realize, oh, this whole trilogy is his origin story. And that just kind of blew me away. I was like, oh, we're in it. This whole thing. I thought that was really cool in the theater. I loved Willem Dafoe in this movie. I loved him way more than I loved him in the first Spider-Man. I think he's a little less goofy and a lot more scary. I think he's probably my second favorite MCU villain behind Thanos. And I also think it's impressive how they kind of juggled this learning the weight of being Spider-Man theme, the Sinister Six. I guess it's not technically, but basically the whole Sinister Six thing they've been trying to do in every Spider-Man franchise. They did it. And they also did the Spider-Verse thing in this movie. They did all three of the big Spider-Man tropes in this movie. And the great power, and the origin story too. They do it all in this movie. They do the loved one dying and telling them that with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man learns the weight of becoming Spider-Man. There's basically the Sinister Six in this movie, and it's done well. And there's also Spider-Verse stuff in this movie, and it's done well. I just think this is pretty obviously the #1 choice. I love this story. I love the cameos. I think it's all there. So that's my #1 choice. I'm prepared to die in the comment section. Hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye.